didn't live stream yesterday. I was exhausted and I fell asleep and just I was asleep from 4 o'clock to basically the next day. So sorry about that. But here we're starting with the Mari tablet towns. This is based on Genesis 28:10, which is the spot where it talks about opening up. Jacob's left Beersheba and set out for Haran, setting up the Jacob's dream at Bethel in that setting. The Mari tablet towns. It is not known exactly when the patriarchs lived. Estimates for dating Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob range from about 2100 to 1800 BC. Such dates would locate the patriarchal period sometime before simultaneously with with the Mari tablets, which themselves had been placed between 1813 and 1760 BC. Mari was once a powerful city located about halfway between Babylon and the Mediterranean Sea. Situated on the banks of the Euphrates River, Mari became rich through trading. Although the city is not named in the Bible, it is well known today because a large archive of official documents, now called the Mari Tablets, was discovered there. More than 20,000 clay tablets written in the Akkadian language were dug up at the excavation site. The royal palace of Zimri Lim, the last king of Mari, had more than 300 rooms, and it was in these rooms that archaeologists found the tablets. Mari was very powerful for several hundred years, up to 1760 BC, when it was destroyed by Hammurabi of Babylon. Hammurabi took away many documents, especially treaties and works on religion, before he abandoned the library. What remains is an extensive record dealing with many aspects of government. The royal palace kept all kinds of administrative records, including lists of supplies, purchases, and expenses. Supplies and accounts for the women of the palace and the harem were kept separately. There are many letters to and from other cities. The Mari tablets frequently mention the sites of Nahor and Haran. Both Abraham, Genesis 11:31, and Jacob, Genesis 27:43 and 28:10, lived in Haran at separate times during their lives. Abraham's servant is reported to have traveled to Nahor in Genesis 24:10. Since cities mentioned in the Mari tablets are also named in the patriarchal stories, it is possible that the tablets reflect aspects of the culture known by the patriarchs. Now, this is an image of Jacob in Egypt, the timeline based on the early Exodus. And it says this: Isaac is born. That's in Genesis 21, verses 2 through 5. And that was done in 2066 BC. And then in 2026 BC, we see Isaac marrying Rebekah in Genesis 25:20. And then Isaac fathers Jacob in 2006 BC. We see that when we read Genesis 25:25 and 26. And then some time passes, and in 1886 BC, Isaac dies at Hebron. And we see that in Genesis 35:27 through 29. And then Jacob enters into Egypt in Genesis 47:9 in 1876 BC. Following that, Jacob then dies in Egypt in Genesis 49:33, which happened in 1859 BC. Now, with all that being said, let's continue on to the next passage. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he thought, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." He was afraid and said, "How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." Early the next morning, Jacob took the stone he had placed under his head and set it up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. He called that place Bethel, though the city used to be called Luz. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, "If God will be with me and will watch over me on this journey I am taking, and will give me food to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return safely to my father's household, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone that I have set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me I will give you a tenth." Genesis 29. Jacob arrives in Padan Aram. Then Jacob continued on his journey and came to the land of the eastern peoples. There he saw a well in the open country with 3 flocks of sheep lying near it, because the flocks were watered from that well. The stone over the mouth of the well was large. When all the flocks were gathered there, the shepherds would roll the stone away from the well's mouth and water the sheep. Then they would return the stone to its place over the mouth of the well. And then it shows a timeline of Jacob in Egypt based on late Exodus. In this, it shows it from the late Exodus period backwards. Isaac is born in Genesis 21, 2 through 5, and then in 1895 BC, that's in 1895 BC. And then in 1855 BC, Isaac marries Rebekah in Genesis 25:20. Following Isaac fathers Jacob in Genesis 25, 25, and 26. That happened in 1835 BC. And then Isaac dies at Hebron in Genesis 35, 27 through 29. That happened in 1715 BC. And then Jacob enters Egypt in Genesis 47, 9, which happened in 1705 BC. And then Jacob dies in Egypt in Genesis 49:33, which happened in 1688 BC. So let's continuing on and read that scripture. Jacob asked the shepherds, "My brothers, where are you from?" "We're from Haran," they replied. He said to them, "Do you know Laban, Nahor's grandson?" "Yes, we know him," they answered. Then Jacob asked him, "Is he well?" "Yes, he is," they said, "and here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." "Look," he said, "the sun is still high. It is not time for the flocks to be gathered. Water the sheep and take them back to pasture." "We can't," they replied, "until all the flocks are gathered and the stone has been rolled away from the mouth of the well. Then we will water the sheep." "How's it going, Gunner?" While he was still talking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherd. "What's up, Danielle? How you doing?" When Jacob saw Rachel, daughter of his uncle Laban, and Laban's sheep. How's it going, Danielle? Can I have mod? No, I'm going to keep over this. Laban and Laban's sheep, he went over and rolled the stone away from the mouth of the well and watered his uncle's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and began to weep loud. He had told Rachel that he was a relative of her father and a son of Rebekah. So she ran and told her father. As soon as Laban heard the news about Jacob, his sister's son, he hurried to meet him. He embraced him and kissed him and brought him to his home. And there Jacob told him all these things. Then Laban said to him, "You are my own flesh and blood." After Jacob had stayed with him for a whole month, Laban said to him, "Just because you are a relative of mine, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your ages should be." Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes, but Rachel had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Jacob was in love with Rachel and said, "I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter, Rachel." Laban said, "It's better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay here with me." So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel. But they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife. My time is completed, and I want to make love to her." So Laban brought together all the people of the place and gave a feast. But when evening came, he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and Jacob made love to her. And Laban gave his servant Zilpah to his daughter as her attendant. When morning came, there was Leah. So Jacob said to Laban, "What is this that you have done to me? I've served you for Rachel, didn't I? Why have you deceived me?" Laban replied, "It is not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish the daughter's bridal week, then we will give you the younger one also, in return for another 7 years of work." And Jacob did so. He finished the week with Leah, and then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban gave his servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her attendant. Jacob made love to Rachel also, and his love for Rachel was greater than his love for Leah, and he worked for Laban another 7 years. When the Lord saw that Leah was not loved, he enabled her to conceive, but Rachel remained childless. Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben, for she said, "It is because the Lord has seen my misery. Surely my husband will love me now." She conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, "Because the Lord heard that I am not loved, he gave me this one too." So she named him Simeon. Again she conceived, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, "Now at last my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons." So he was named Levi. She conceived again, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, "This time I will praise the Lord." So she named him Judah. Then she stopped having children. Genesis 30. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing Jacob any children, she became jealous of her sister. So she said to Jacob, "Give me children or I'll die." Jacob became angry with her and said, "Am I in the place of God, who has kept you from having children?" Then she said, "Here's Bilhah, my servant. Sleep with her so that she can bear children for me, and I too can build a family through her." Hi, Danielle. Then she said, already read that. So she gave him her servant Bilhah as a wife. Jacob slept with her, and she became pregnant and bore him a son. Then Rachel said, "God has vindicated me. He has listened to my plea and given me a son." Because of this, she named him Dan. Rachel's servant Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, "I have had a great struggle with my sister, and I have won." So she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son. Then Leah said, "What good fortune!" So she named him Gad. Leah's servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, "How happy I am! The women will call me happy." So she named him Asher. I'm reading the NIV Chronological Study Bible. During wheat harvest, Reuben went out into the fields and found some mandrake plants, which he brought to his mother Leah. Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." This then has a little commentary on the health and medicine of the time. A mandrake, as stated in Genesis 30:14, is a small plant that blooms in the spring and has roots resembling a person's legs. It was by reputation an aphrodisiac, or aid to physical passion. Plants get their reputations as medicines or potions, sometimes from science and sometimes from tradition or superstition, or from a mixture of these. Now back to Genesis 30, verse 15. But she said to her, "Wasn't it enough that you took away my husband? Will you take my son's mandrakes too?" "Very well," Rachel said. "He can sleep with you tonight in return for your son's mandrakes." So when Jacob came in from the fields that evening, Leah went out to meet him. "You must sleep with me," she said. "I have hired you with my son's mandrakes." So he slept with her that night. Jacob listened to Leah, and she became pregnant and bore Jacob a fifth son. Then Leah said, "God has rewarded me for giving my servant to my husband." So she named him Issachar. Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a sixth son. Then Leah said, "God has presented me with a precious gift. This time my husband will treat me with honor, because I have borne him six sons." So she named him Zebulon. Sometime later, she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. At the moment, yes, you are. Then God remembered Rachel. He listened to her, enabled her to conceive. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son and said, "God has taken away my disgrace." She named him Joseph and said, "May the Lord add to me another son." After Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me on my way so I can go back to my own homeland. Give me my wives and children for whom I have served you, and I will be on my way. You know how much work I have done for you." But Laban said to him, "If I have found favor in your eyes, please stay. I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you." He added, "Name your wages and I will pay them." Yes, you are, Danielle. Jacob said to him, "You know I have worked for you, and how your livestock has fared under my care. The little you had before I came has increased greatly, and the Lord has blessed you wherever I have been. But now when may I do something for my own household? What shall I give you?" he asked. "Don't give me anything," Jacob replied. "But if you will do this one thing for me, I will go on tending your flocks and watching over them. Let me go through all your flocks today and remove from them every speckled or spotted sheep, every dark-colored lamb, and every spotted or speckled goat." I do have a small gaming setup, but not really. I play mainly on my computer and on my phone, but I do have a small gaming setup. "Let me go through all your flocks today and remove from them every speckled or spotted sheep, every dark-colored lamb, and every spotted or speckled goat. They will be my wages, and my honesty will testify for me in the future. Whenever you check on the wages you have paid me, any goat in my possession that is not speckled or spotted, or any lamb that is not dark-colored will be considered stolen." Agreed, said Laban. Let it be as you have said. That same day he removed all the male goats that were streaked or spotted, and all the speckled or spotted female goats, all that had white on them, and all the dark-colored lambs, and he placed them in the care of his sons. Then he put a 3-day journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob continued to tend the rest of Laban's flocks. Sometimes, but I rarely play for Forza Horizon, but the game is fun. Then he put a 3-day journey between himself and Jacob, while Jacob continued to tend the rest of Laban's flocks. Jacob, however, took fresh cut branches from poplar, almond, and plane trees, and made white strips on them by peeling the dark and exposing the white inner wood of the branches. Then he placed the peeled branches in all the watering troughs so that they would be directly in front of the flocks when they came to drink. When the flocks were in heat and came to drink, they made it in front of the branches, and they bore young that were streaked or speckled or spotted. Jacob set apart the young of the flock by themselves, but made the rest face the streaked and dark-colored animals that belonged to Laban. Thus he made separate flocks for himself and did not put them with Laban's animals. Whenever the stronger females were in heat, Jacob would place the branches in the troughs in front of the animals so they would mate near the branches. But if the animals were weak, he would not place them there. So the weak animals went to Laban and the strong ones to Jacob. In this way the man grew exceedingly prosperous and came to own large flocks and female and male servants and camels and donkeys. I like playing a lot of different games. I really like Call of Duty. I like Minecraft. I like Smash Bros. I like a lot of different games that are very strategic, but I also like relaxing games as well. Jacob flees from Laban. Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, Jacob has taken everything our father owned and has gained all this wealth from what belonged to our father. And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had been. Then the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. I don't play that one often. I do like playing it, but I don't own it myself. My older brother does, and I played it on his account. And Jacob noticed that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had been. Then the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent word to Rachel and Leah to come out to the fields where his flocks were. He said to them, I see that your father's attitude toward me is not what it was before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that I've worked for your father with all my strength. Yet your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. However, God has not allowed him to harm me. If he said the speckled ones will be your wages, then all the flocks gave birth to speckled young. And if he said the streaked ones will be your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked young. So God has taken away your father's livestock and has given them to me. In breeding season I once had a dream in which I looked up and saw that the male goats mating with the flock were streaked, speckled, or spotted. The angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob. I answered, here I am. And he said, look up and see that all the male goats mating with the flock are streaked, speckled, or spotted. For I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now leave this land at once and go back to your native land. Then Rachel and Leah replied, do we still have any share in the inheritance of our father's estate? Does he not regard us as foreigners? Not only has he sold us, but he has used us up what was paid for us. Surely all the wealth that God took away from our father belongs to us and our children. So do whatever God has told you. Then Jacob put his children and his wives on camels, and he drove all his livestock ahead of him, along with all the goods he had accumulated in Padan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. When Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole her father's household gods. Moreover, Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean by not telling him he was running away. So he fled with all he had, crossed the Euphrates River, and headed for the hill country of Gilead. Laban pursues Jacob. On the 3rd day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. Taking his relatives with him, he pursued Jacob for 7 days and caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. Then God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream at night and said to him, be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country of Gilead when Laban overtook him, and Laban and his relatives camped there too. Then Laban said to Jacob, what have you done? You've deceived me, and you've carried off my daughters like captives in war. Why did you run off secretly and deceive me? Why didn't you tell me so I could send you away with joy and singing to the music of timbrels and harps? You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren and my daughters goodbye. You have done a foolish thing. I have the power to harm you, but last night the God of your father said to me, be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Now you have gone off because you long to return to your father's household. But why did you steal my gods? Family leadership and household gods. This is based on Genesis 31 through 30 and 34. One of the most curious stories of the patriarchal accounts is the theft of Laban's gods by his daughter Rachel in Genesis 31:19. What makes the story seem so out of place is that these gods are never mentioned again after this episode, nor were they mentioned previously. Another oddity in Laban's insistence on finding the gods, Genesis 31:33 through 35. After all, they were probably made of clay, like the hundreds of household gods that have been found in archaeological excavations and had little intrinsic value. Laban's accusations provoked reaction from Jacob centered on his mistreatment while with Laban. Genesis 31:38 through 41. Jacob went so far as to claim that it was God alone who provided his wealth. He got nothing from Laban. Genesis 31:42. Laban disputed that claim and suggested that all that Jacob possessed, including his wives, was actually Laban's. Genesis 31:43. Certainly the two men could not agree on who owned what. Consolation was reached by making a covenant and establishing a boundary between Laban and Jacob. Genesis 31:44 through 52. Since it was Laban who suggested the pillar of stones as a protective barrier, we can suppose that he had some fear of Jacob, even though it was Laban who had until this time been pursuing Jacob. The story presents various puzzles: Laban's determination to recover the household gods, both men's claim of ownership of the wives, children, and flocks, Laban's initiation of a boundary. Understanding these puzzles is helped by evidence that household gods served a purpose in addition to that of worship. Information gathered from one ancient tablet found at the second millennium city of Nuzi suggests that at times household gods were used as evidence of family leadership. The claim to leadership enlightens some aspects of the story. It explains why Rachel stole the gods to give her husband the position of tribal leader, why Laban was so insistent on getting them back to make sure one of his own sons would become the family chief, why Laban wanted to erect a boundary between Jacob and himself to make sure that Jacob never returned with the household gods to claim the first rights to the family holdings. Continuing on in Genesis 30, verse 31. Jacob answered Laban, I was afraid because I thought you would take your daughters away from me by force. But if you find anyone who has your gods, that person shall not live. In the presence of our relatives, see for yourself whether there is anything of yours here with me, and if so, take it. Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the gods. So Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tent of the two female servants, but he found nothing. After he came out of Leah's tent, he entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them inside her camel's saddle, and was sitting on them. Laban searched through everything in the tent, but found nothing. Rachel said to her father, Don't be angry, my lord, that I cannot stand up in your presence. I'm having my period. So he searched, but could not find the household gods. Jacob was angry and took Laban to task. What is my crime? He asked Laban. How have I wronged you that you have hunted me down? Now that you have searched through all my goods, what have you found that belongs to your household? Put it in here in front of your relatives and mine, and let them judge between the two of us. I have been with you for 20 years now. Your sheep and goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten rams from your flocks. I did not bring you animals torn by wild beasts. I bore the loss myself, and you demanded payment from me for whatever was stolen by day or night. This was my situation. The heat consumed me in the daytime and the cold at night, and sleep fled from my eyes. It was like this for the 20 years I was in your household. I worked for you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks, and you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been with me, you would surely have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen my hardship and the toil of my hands, and last night he rebuked you. Laban answered Jacob, The women are my daughters, the children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks. All you see is mine. Yet what can I do today about these daughters of mine or about the children they have borne? Come now, let's make a covenant, you and I, and let it serve as a witness between us. So Jacob took a stone, set it up as a pillar. He said to his relatives, Gather some stones. So they took stones and piled them in a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jager Shahadutha, and Jacob called it Gilead. Laban of Laban of Aram Naharim. This is based on Genesis 31, verse 47. Padan Aram, also known as Aram Naharim in Deuteronomy 23, verse 4, was the home of Laban, a descendant of Abraham's brother Nahor. Genesis 28, 2. Meaning literally Aram, between the rivers. Aram Naharim was the geographic name for Upper Mesopotamia, the region between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Egyptian sources, including the Amarna archives from the 14th century, referred to the region as Naharina without the Aram prefix. Some English Bible versions translate it as Mesopotamia. Laban is described as Aramean in Genesis 28, verse 5. The ethnic group known as the Arameans are not mentioned as inhabitants of this area until the 12th century, but in the early first millennium, numerous Aramean states were found in eastern Syria, and many individual Aramean tribes were causing great difficulty for both the Assyrian and Babylonian kingdoms in Mesopotamia. When Laban speaks the words Jegar Shahadutha, he is saying heap of witness in the Aramaic language. Hi, Jose. How you doing? Genesis 31, verse 47. Until the first millennium, Aramaic, a Semitic language closely related to Biblical Hebrew, was spoken primarily by people from Aramean states. The Assyrians found Aramaic a convenient language for administering their conquered areas. Thus, it became an official language in portions of the Neo-Assyrian Empire from the 8th century on. The use of Aramaic spread until it later became the international language of commerce during the period of the Persian Empire's dominance, circa 559 to 331 BC. The figure of Laban from Padan Aram in Upper Mesopotamia represents a people that had great influence on their world. The Arameans did not establish major kingdoms, as did the Assyrians and Babylonians. Nevertheless, I don't really speak. I know like some words, but not enough to say I speak it. I'm definitely down to learn some Spanish, though. It never hurts to learn new languages. Nevertheless, the adjective Aramaean was used long after the Aramaean political states no longer existed. They left their mark through the language. Although Aramaic was later replaced by Greek in the Mediterranean world, the language continued to be used in the Near East by the Parthians after 200 BC and could be found as far east as India. It was the primary language of Palestine during the time of Jesus. I would love to learn some Spanish, though, because part of my roots, I'm 25% Hispanic. My nana, she's from Monterrey, Mexico. I do not know the Spanish, nor do I know the Honduras dialect of Spanish, but I'd love to learn. Is there a possibility to put on subtitles that are in Honduran Spanish? Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today. That is why it was called Gelid. It was also called Misphah, because he said, 'May the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are away from each other. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you take any wives besides my daughters, even though no one is with us, remember that God is a witness between you and me.' Laban also said to Jacob, 'Here is this heap, and here is this pillar I have set up between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness, that I will not go past this heap to your side to harm you, and that you will not go past this to harm you, and that you will not go past this heap and pillar to my side to harm me. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us.' So Jacob took an oath in the name of the fear of his father Isaac. He offered a sacrifice there in the hill country and invited his relatives to a meal. After they had eaten, they spent the night there. Early the next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home." All your comments are coming through English, so I can read them in English. English. How you doing, Adnez? Genesis 32. Jacob prepares to meet Esau. Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named that place Mahanaim. Mahanaim. Those two verses are followed by a time capsule between the years 1834 to 1800 BC. In 1834 BC, we see the first Amorite tribe capturing the city-state of Larsa. Thank you, Jose. In 1834 to 1823, Warad Sin is appointed by his father to be ruler of Larsa. In 1822 to 1763, Rimsin was king of Larsa. In 1813 to 1781, Shamshi Adad I of Assyria rules city-state of Ashur and most of northern Mesopotamia. In 1813 to 1760 BC, the Mari tablets were found. In 1804, King Rimsin of Larsa captured Isin. In 1800 BC, the semi-nomadic tribe called Beni Yamina makes raids on Mari. Also in 1800, the musical notation was first used in Babylonia. Now going back to Genesis 32, starting in verse 3, Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He instructed them, "This is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there till now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants. Now I'm sending this message to my lord, that I may find favor in your eyes." When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, "We went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." I do not know how you say car in Spanish. Let me look that up, though. Is it like automobile? Spanish dictionary is saying el coche. El coche. It's got a few different ones here. El coche, el carro, el auto, and el automóvil. And el vagón. For different cars. But it seems like it's saying that, talking about your regular car, it's el coche, el carro, or el auto. But that may also just be for the Mexican dialect. When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, "We went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into two groups, and the flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. Then Jacob prayed, "O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, 'Go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper.' I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become two camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack. You have said, I will surely, no, he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted." He spent the night there, and from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself, and said to his servants, "Go ahead of me and keep some space between the herds." He instructed the one in the lead, "When my brother Esau meets you and asks, 'Why do you belong to Or who do you belong to? And where are you going? And who owns all these animals in front of you? Then you are to say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us. I know gracias. I know de nada. I know pero. I know, now I know el coche. I know horchata, jarrito. What else do I know? Un poco, herbaño, por favor, pollo, el carne. And that's all I can think of right now. Let's see, where was I? He instructed the one in the. Oh wait, no, I already read all the way to here. He also instructed the one in the lead. When my brother Esau. I play Roblox sometimes, not too often. I'm not a big Roblox guy. He instructed the one in the lead. When my brother Esau meets you and asks, who do you belong to, and where are you going, and who owns all these animals in front of you? Then you are to say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us. He also instructed the second, the third, and the others who followed the herds. You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him, and be sure to say, your servant Jacob is coming behind us. For he thought, I will pacify him with these gifts. I am sending on ahead. Later when I see him, perhaps he will receive me. So Jacob's gift went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. Hi, Maurici Germano. How you doing? Jacob wrestles with God. That night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. I'm not the biggest Trump fan. I think Trump is a way better candidate than Harris would have ever been. But, oh, what words do you know in Spanish? Well, you're from Honduras, so I expect you to know a lot of Spanish. Unless they speak a lot of a different language there. Yeah. Jacob returns to Canaan. After 20 years in Padan Aram, in northern Mesopotamia, Jacob returned to Canaan. He encountered the angels of God at Mahanaim and wrestled with a messenger of God at Peniel. That's the map that it shows. Cucaracha. And then with a brush. Con un pincel. Nice. The man asked him, what is your name? Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and humans and have overcome. Jacob said, please tell me your name. But he replied, why do you ask my name? Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, it is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. Genesis 33. Jacob meets Esau. New route from the south. Save Florianopolis, Santa Catarina. Okay. Jacob looked up, and there was Esau, coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the 2 female servants. He put the female servants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. And then it shows a pretty good image right here. Pretty cool image. I like little art pieces like that. And that was Jacob and Esau. That painting was by Francesco Hayes in circa 1844. United States and Canada. I'm not a big fan of Canada. Mainly because their government. I'm not a big fan of the Canadian government. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the woman and children. "Who are these with you?" he asked. Jacob answered, "They are the children God has graciously given your servant." Then the female servants and their children approached and bowed down. Next Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. I am not from England. I'm from the United States. Then the female servants and their children approached and bowed down. Next Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. Esau asked, "What's the meaning of all these flocks and herds I met?" "To find favor in your eyes, my lord," he said. But Esau said, "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." "No, please," said Jacob. "If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me favorably. Please accept the present that was brought to you, for God has been gracious to me and I have all I need." And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. And then Esau said, "Let us be on our way. I'll accompany you." But Jacob said to him, "My lord knows that the children are tender and that I must care for the ewes and cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard just one day, all the animals will die. So let my lord go on ahead of his servant, while I move along slowly at the pace of the flocks and herds before me and the pace of the children until I come to my lord and seer." Go enjoy your dinner, Jose. What'd she make? Esau said, "Then let me leave some of my men with you." "But why do that?" Jacob asked. "Just let me find favor in the eyes of the Lord." So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth. After Jacob came from Padan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem, and Canaan encamped within sight of the city for 100 pieces of silver. He brought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. There he set up an altar and called it El Elohi Israel. Genesis 34. Dinah and the Shechemites. Now Dinah, the daughter Leah, had born to Jacob, went out to visit the woman of the land. When Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah's daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Hamor, "Get me this girl as my wife." When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the fields with his livestock, so he did nothing about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the fields as soon as they heard what had happened. They were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not have been done. Oh, I didn't know that. That's good to know. I don't know much about Honduras. But Hamor said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife." Intermarry with us. Give us your daughters and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the young woman as my wife. Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's son replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, we can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will enter into an agreement with you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sister and go. The proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem, the young man who was the most honored of all his father's family. Lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to the men of their city. These men are friendly toward us, they said. Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours. But the men will agree to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So let us agree to their terms, and they will settle among us. All the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzites. The people living in this land, we are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed. But they replied, should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? Have a great one, Jose. It was great meeting you too. I hope you come back tomorrow. Jacob returns to Bethel. In Genesis chapter 35. Then God said to Jacob, go up to Bethel and settle there and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, get rid of the foreign gods, you who have with you, and purify yourselves and change your clothes. Then come, let us go up to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me wherever I have gone. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem. Then they set out, and the terror of God fell on the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and was buried under the oak outside Bethel, so it was named Elon Bachuth. After Jacob returned from Padan Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him. God said to him, your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel. So he named him Israel. And God said to him, I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac I also give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you. Then God went up from him at the place where he had talked with him. Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. Jacob called the place where Jacob had talked with him Bethel. Architecture and building. Stone pillars are the oldest kind of monument. Genesis 35:14 can attest to that. There are more than 3,000 stone pillars at Karnak, France, from before 2000 BC. When no writing accompanies a pillar, its meaning usually cannot be recovered. The pyramids and obelisks of Egypt are in effect elaborations of the pillar. Not all carved obelisks have writing on them. The deaths of Rachel and Isaac. Then they moved on from Bethel. While they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. And as she was greatly difficult in childbirth, the midwife said to her, "Don't despair, for you have another son." And she breathed her last, for she was dying. She named her son Ben-Onin, but his father named him Benjamin. Benjamin, sons of the south, based on Genesis 35:18. Benjamin was the youngest son of the biblical patriarch Jacob. Among the 12 tribes of Israel, the tribe of Benjamin bears his name as its tribal ancestor. Members of this tribe are thus called Benjaminites or Benjamites, among whom the most famous were Saul, the first king of Israel, 1 Samuel 9:1 and 2, and Paul the Apostle, Philippians 3:4 and 5. In the biblical narrative of Benjamin's birth, the baby is named by the mother as she was dying in childbirth. The name Rachel gave her son Ben-Onin means son of my trouble, but the father Jacob named the baby Benjamin. Genesis 35 verse 18. The English syllables Jamin translates a Hebrew word meaning a right hand or south. In Israel, the south is on the right hand side as a person faces the east. Thus the name Benjamin meant son of my right hand or son of the south. Another tribe with a similar name is known from ancient times. Clay tablets from the Amorite site of Mari in Syria give evidence that a tribe called Benayamina existed around 1800 BC. The Benayamina were an unruly semi-nomadic group that were causing concern for Mari's king, in Zimri Lim. The original meaning of the names Benjamin and Benayamina is undeniably the same. Both mean literally sons of the south. Nevertheless, there is no connection between the Israelite tribe and the tribe mentioned in the Mari sources. However, the similar names do suggest that both groups had a Semitic heritage, and that Benjamin may very well have been a popular name for tribes in the Middle Bronze Age, 2000 to 1500 BC. Continuing on in 35 verse 19. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Over her tomb, Jacob set up a pillar, and to this day that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal Eder. While Israel was living in that region, Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. Jacob had 12 sons. The sons of Leah, Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob, were Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Rachel's servant Bilhah, Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Leah's servant Zilpah, Gad, and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Padan Aram. Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre, near Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years, then he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, old and full of years. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Genesis 36, Esau's descendants. This is the account of the family line of Esau, that is Edom. Esau took his wives from the women of Canaan, Adah, daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah, daughter of Anah, and granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite. Also Basemath, daughter of Ishmael, and sister of Nebaioth. Adah bore Eliphaz to Esau. Basemath bore Reuel, and Oholibamah bore Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These were the sons of Esau who were born to him in Canaan. Esau took his wives and sons and daughters and all the members of his household, as well as his livestock and all his other animals, and all the goods he had acquired in Canaan, and moved to a land some distance from his brother Jacob. Their possessions were too great for them to remain together. The land where they were staying could not support them, both because of their livestock. So Esau, that is Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir. That is the account of the family line of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Esau's wife Adah, and Reuel, the son of Esau's wife Basemath. The sons of Eliphaz: Taman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Esau's son Eliphaz also had a concubine named Timnah, who bore him Emelech. These were the grandsons of Esau's wife Adah. The sons of Reuel: Nehath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These were grandsons of Esau's wife Basemath. The sons of Esau's wife Aholobama, daughter of Anah and granddaughter of Zibeon, whom she bore to Esau, Jeush, Jelam, and Korah. These were the chiefs among Esau's descendants. The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau, chiefs Teman, Omar, Zepho, Ganaz, Korah, Gatam, and Emelech. These were the chiefs' descendants from Eliphaz and Edom. They were grandsons of Adah. The sons of Esau's sons, Reuel, chiefs Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These were the chiefs descended from Reuel in Edom. They were grandsons of Esau's wife, Basemath. The sons of Esau's wife, Aholabama, chiefs Jewish, Jelam, and Korah. These were the chiefs descended from Esau's wife, Aholibama, daughter of Anah. These were the sons of Esau, that is Edom, and these were the chiefs. These were the sons of Zir, the Horite, who were living in their region. Lotan, Shobol, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. These sons of Seir and Edom were Horite chiefs. The Horites of Mount Zir. This is based on Genesis 36, verse 21. At one time, Zir and Edom were possibly two separate geographical regions. Zir was a mountainous region. Edom was part of the Transjordanian Plateau. Eventually, Seir became a part of the Edomite state, and the names Seir and Edom came to be used interchangeably. Two different peoples, the Horites and the Edomites, lived in this area known as Seir and Edom. The Horite genealogy in Genesis 36, 20 through 30 is distinct from the Edomite genealogy in Genesis 36, 9 through 19. The Horites appear to have been a more pastoral people, different from the agricultural Edomites in the Bible. The Horites are described as a group of tribes who inhabited the mountains of Seir, until they were displaced by the Edomites in Genesis 14:6 and Deuteronomy 2:12 and 22. When in the 19th century scholars discovered a people called the Hurrians, they assumed a connection between Hurrians and the biblical Horites. But Hurrians were a cultural and political force in North Syria and the Tigris area, and their whereabouts in the northern regions does not correspond with the Horite association with Mount Zir. The Horites should not be confused with either the Edomites or the Hurrians. All that can be determined about them now is that they were very early inhabitants of Zir. The sons of Lotan, Hori and Homam. Timnah was Latan's sister. The sons of Shobol, Alvan, Manhath, Ebel, Shepho, and Anam. The sons of Zibeon, Ayah, and Anah. This is the Anah who discovered the hot springs in the desert while he was grazing the donkeys of his father Zibeon. The children of Anah, Dishon, and Holabama, daughter of Anah. The sons of Dishon, Hemdan, Eshban, Ethran, and Karan. The sons of Ezer, Belahan, Zavan, and Akan. The sons of Dishan, Uz, and Alan. These were the Horite chiefs: Lotan, Shobol, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Eser, and Dijan. These were the Horite chiefs according to their divisions in the land of Zir. The rulers of Edom. These were the kings who reigned in Edom before any Israelite king reigned. Bela, son of Beor, became king of Edom. His city was named Dinhabah. When Bela died, Jobab, son of Zerah from Bozrah, succeeded him as king. When Jobab died, Hesham from the land of the Temanites succeeded him as king. When Hesham died, Hadad, son of Bedad, who defeated Midian in the country of Moab, succeeded him as king. His city was named Avith. When Hadad died, Samlah from Mizracha succeeded him as king. When Samlah died, Shol from Rehoboth on the river succeeded him as king. When Shaholah died, Baal-Hanan, son of Akbar, succeeded him as king. When Baal-Hanan, son of Akbar, died, Hadad succeeded him as king. His city was named Pau, and his wife's name was Mehetabel, daughter of Mitred, the daughter of Mizab. These were the chiefs descended from Esau by name according to their clans and regions: Timnah, Arva, Jetheth, Oholabama, Elah, Pinin, Kenaz, Teman, Mibzar, Magdil, and Elam, and Iram. These were the chiefs of Edom according to their settlements in the land they occurred. This is the family line of Esau, the father of the Edomites. Transition point. Joseph, a Hebrew in Egypt. The significance of the Hyksos or the Hyksos dynasty for the Joseph narratives of Genesis 37 through 50, which we're about to get into in tomorrow's live stream, is debated. Some claim that Joseph's rise to power and the Hebrews' entry into Egypt took place during this time, while others say that the patriarchs must have entered Egypt earlier. In either case, an Egyptian dynasty with Semitic roots would have been a less hostile environment for the Hebrews and might have contributed to their growth upon arriving there. Exodus 1, verse 7. Now, tomorrow we're going to start Genesis 37, 1 through 46, 34. We're going to start at the ending of Genesis. And Genesis 37 begins with Joseph's dreams. But that's for tomorrow. Now, for those that may still be online, I'm going to end with prayer, and I hope you guys got something out of this because it's very important to understand the history behind the Bible and the history behind the church. Because the Bible, not just is it very effective and very educational, but the Bible controls all of Western society. When you derive and leave the Bible and leave the importance of the Bible, you leave the importance of Western society. So let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the blessings, and thank you for dying on the cross for our sins. Lord, I just want to pray to you today that whoever was on the other side, that this was able to teach them something new, that this reading was able to bring them to a better understanding of your word, that it was able to strengthen their ideas of who you are. Lord, I pray in everything that you do, that you work in the lives of these people. Lord, I pray for their salvation, and I pray that they ask one day for you to fill their hearts and that they'll submit to you as King and believe in you as Savior. Lord, I want to thank you for all you do, and I want to thank you for allowing these people to watch. And it's in your precious, holy, and powerful name that I pray. Amen. Have a great one, guys. Peace.